As we begin our services today, I'm going to ask if we can kindly turn off or silence all electronics or cell phones. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Welcome, everyone. Eshet Chayil Mi'imsa, a woman of valor who can find, for her worth is far greater than rubies. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her, and through her he has no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She rises also while it is yet night and gives food to her household and a portion to her maidens. She considers a field and buys it, and with the fruit of her hands she plants a vineyard. She girds her loins with strength and makes strong her arms. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the law of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and eats not the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done valiantly, he says, but you exceed them all. End quote. I begin our time together today reading an excerpt from Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, which comes from chapter 31 of the book of Proverbs. It's used as a song sung each Friday night at the Shabbos table in celebration of a strong Jewish woman. And today, we are brought together in loving memory of Shirley M. Gold, just such a woman. Now, I didn't know Shirley in life, but I spent some time last evening speaking with her children, Lynn and Dave, who shared with me about who their mother was, the love she gave to them, and to their father, her high school sweetheart, Stanley of blessed memory, next to whom she will be interred shortly at Crescent Memorial Park in Pensacola immediately following this service. And Eshet Chayil, which I just read, to repeat a portion of it, it reads, "She rises while it is yet night and gives food to her household and a portion to her maidens." I learned that Shirley was quite the cook, the lover of cooking, the lover of cookbooks, having, as Lynn told me, over 1,000 of them, according to her count at its max, and still having about 700 of them now, taking up an entire room in her home. And she made her home a central meeting place for extended family, always around food, particularly at Thanksgiving. I learned about her formative years in Wilkes-Barre, where my mother-in-law's from as well. Not so many people we know down here are from that area. I learned about her move to Camden, to Levittown, to Willingboro, to West Hampton, and ultimately to Mays Landing. You know, it says here as well, in Eshet Chayil, she considers a field and buys it, and with the fruit of her hand, she plants a vineyard. I learned about her greenhouse, the only greenhouse in Willingboro, I heard, and her gardens filled with vegetables that she would use for her cooking, perhaps before she got sick on a day like today. That's where she would be. I did learn, too, of her health and mental difficulties that she faced over the last few years as she declined. She lived for 90 plus years. It's incredible. It's no small feat. And we hold her memory center stage today and honor her presence on this earth and the impact that she's had on each of you during that 90 plus years. So today, we come together to pray for full and complete rest for Shirley's body. And as she'll be laid to rest, we note that her soul remains bound to the bond of life, to each of you, and we offer blessings for the continued elevation of her soul. My name's Rabbi Nathan Weiner. I'm a rabbi here locally in South Jersey at Congregation Beth Tikva in Marlton. On behalf of myself and my family and the Jewish people, we offer sincere condolences to you. It's an honor to be present here today with you, to mourn with you, and to celebrate Shirley's memory with you. As I mentioned, Shirley's predeceased by her husband Stanley, Zichrono Livracha, of blessed memory. She's survived by her children, her daughter Lynn, her son David, and his wife Jeannie, and their daughter Victoria, and her husband William. It's my prayer that your love and care for one another, God willing, carry you through your emotions around this difficult transition. I'm now going to recite Psalm 23, Psalm universal across the Abrahamic faith traditions at moments of grief and loss. I'll read it first in the Hebrew, followed by a standard English translation. If you're familiar with it and you'd like to say it with me in either the Hebrew or the English, you're welcome to do so. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo achzar, bino deshe yarbitzeni al mei menuchoti nahaleni, nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'maglei tzedek laman shemo, gam ki elech b'getz al mavet lo irara ki atai madi, shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi rivaya, ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai, V'shavti beveit Adonai le'orech yamim. A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen v'amen. We note additionally that there are friends and family that are joining with us remotely. Welcome. Your presence is deeply felt in this sanctuary together. And for you, I'd like to read a poem called When the Funeral is Too Far Away. It's adapted from Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt. God, my loved one is being buried too far away to visit. I want to run my fingers along their name to be engraved in granite, to take a stone from my pocket and leave it to mark my presence. Times like this, I wish I didn't live so far away. If I close my eyes and imagine their interment here before me, will you help me feel as though I'd actually gone to see them? Be the switchboard operator, please connect my call. When I say I remember you, I want to believe they hear me, even though I'm not with them in that far-off chapel. May the miles between here and there become unimportant in the face of what connects us across all kinds of difference. And lastly, from Kohelet, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which has been planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather them up, a time to embrace and a time to refrain, a time to seek, a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time for silence and a time for speaking. This is one of those times for speaking and to offer words of what's called in Hebrew a hesped, or a eulogy, to uphold her honor and dignity. I'm going to welcome her children. First Lynn, then Dave. Lynn?
Like many of you, when I think of my mother, I think of food. Mom's place was the house of food. You couldn't go anywhere in the house, and you still can't without coming across something having to do with food. Even the bathrooms have food magazines. Mom loved to cook. From the time I was a toddler, she had me help making pierogies. One tradition she passed down to me was when you got a cookbook from a family member, you were supposed to write down a recipe on one of the blank pages from them. I still make her rice pudding. Mom loved trying different cuisines. I never knew what I was coming home to, in a good way. I might find a Peking duck hanging in the refrigerator, or one time, while my friends would eat peanut butter and jelly, I ate crab meat souffle. While most folks had warmed over leftovers, we had paella. I took plain peanut butter sandwiches to school most of the time because Mom made bread every other day, and I wanted to be able to taste the bread. Mom didn't like chocolate, yet her brownies were voted best by the readers of Philadelphia magazine in Philadelphia when she was working at a place in a small strip mall in New Jersey called the Wine Cellar. Not a place you'd expect to find the best brownies. But that was my mother. Yes, I have the recipe, by the way. I've also got her cheesecake recipe, and I anoint every new computer I get with them. There were a few downsides to Mom's love of food. She was in your face. It was a morning person. I'm not. At 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday, she'd be yelling, "Linny, get up. It's time to make pickles. You love to make pickles." "Mom, I love to sleep." When Mom would feed us, she'd be waiting for feedback. She loved hearing nummy noises when we ate. Nowadays, my friends tease me because I still make nummy noises when I eat. Nothing upset Mom more than when we get a stomach virus or something else that kept us from eating. She'd be really cranky until you could eat again. Another problem, David and I have spent most of our lives fighting a battle of the bulges. When I'd visit Mom, I could count on gaining a pound a day. She loved gardening because it yielded fresh food. One time she dragged us to a local dairy where there was a vat of manure about the size of a swimming pool. She was grinning ear to ear, loading trash cans full of the stuff, saying, "Don't you want to help?" Do I need to tell you what a swimming pool-sized vat of manure smells like? Mom was also very musical. As a toddler, she sang on the radio. Her parents loved to tell the story of when 3-year-old Shirley had just finished a song and the host asked, "Would you like to say hello to your parents?" She said, "I can't. They're not here." I love classical music because she'd exude joy when she would sit at the piano and play Beethoven or Chopin or Malagueña. Her favorite song was Laura's theme from Dr. Zhivago. Never could play as well as she did because my fingers are shorter than hers. Having a basketball player's handspan doesn't help. She also passed down to us the gift, if you could call it that, of perfect pitch. That means when you hit an off note, you're the first one to know it. When we'd go somewhere and be seated behind someone singing off key, she'd mutter, "Please, just shoot me now." Mom was artistic. She could paint and draw really well, but she tended to put her artistic talent into her food. When she was in restaurant chef school, she had to put top knots on her bread because someone was literally stealing her homework. One time when I was visiting before a science fiction convention and as I was leaving, she said, would you like to take some food to your friends? We happened to be putting on a party at the convention, so I said, okay. I get there, the guys had forgotten to buy food, and they see me pulling in with this rental car filled to the gills with catered-looking food that was Mom's leftovers. They're like, oh, thank you. Another time, Mom wound up helping me get stuff moved for free by catering a party in a convention in Philadelphia by getting rid of food she wanted to get rid of. Last but far from least, she was a great resource. When I got into genealogy, Mom was my go-to. When a distant cousin uploaded photos, we had Mom identify the people in them. If I had a food question, I'd call Mom. And the next time I have questions, it's going to really hit me that I can't call her anymore. Thank you.
A mother's love sounds like a Hallmark card, but with my mom, it meant a lot of things. Mother's love is food. Cooking is what she had a passion for. Always something in the oven or on the stove. Her Thanksgiving feasts were the stuff of legend. Enough to feed the entire extended family. And when most other people were enjoying retirement age, Mom took it upon herself to enter culinary school and become an actual chef. A mother's love is helping. And you could always kvetch to Mom. She was a good listener. Even if she didn't really understand what you were talking about, she listened and tried to help somehow. She was helping everyone, giving extra food to the neighbors, sharing plant clippings, various vegetables from her garden, and yes, tons of leftovers. And a mother's love is trusting. She was a genius with many things. Unfortunately, technology was not amongst them, but she trusted my sister and I to guide her in these areas. For computer stuff, Lynn was the definitive expert. For her TV and phone stuff, I was the 24/7 on-call technician. Many evening I would get a frantic call. You see, Mom loved to fall asleep watching the television, but occasionally she'd hit something on the remote that would mess something up. David, I hit a button and now the screen is blue. David, my DirecTV says no signal. David, I did something and now the TV only speaks Spanish. But a few minutes on the phone, or in some cases hours, the solution was found. And she'd always say, thank you, David, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then she could get to sleep. And so could I. A phone call from her could be accidentally done as a FaceTime. And my entire conversation would be looking at an image of my mom's ear because she had no idea how to use FaceTime. But my favorite tech story has got to be when I bought Mom a GPS. It was a standalone one, and this is before you had it built into your phones. And she got lost one day. Tried to use the GPS, and for some reason it didn't work. So I get a phone call, David, I'm lost and the GPS can't get me home. So I try to take her step by step through it. You hit home, and it says, David, it says I can't drive home from here. So I help her the old-fashioned way, what street you're on, and me at home on my computer triangulate her location and guide her to a road where she knows where she is. Later, I go to the house and check out the GPS, and God bless Mom. Somehow, she hit random buttons on the screen and reprogrammed the GPS to think that she was in Guam. And of course, the GPS can't seem to find a direct road from Guam to New Jersey. It took me 20 minutes to do what she managed to do in like a few seconds. But as frustrating as all those phone calls were, they're cherished memories. And that's what a mother's love truly is. Giving you a lifetime of memories, wisdom, care, learning how to love, and to remember to pass all of that down to your children. Thanks, Mom.
It's with these, as David called them, cherished memories and intentions in mind that we move to the central prayer of a Jewish memorial service, El Malei Rachamim, which asks that as her body will be laid to rest, that her soul be granted true rest upon the wings of God's divine presence. I'll read it first in the English, followed by chanting it in the Hebrew. If it's comfortable physically for you to do so, I ask you to please rise. O God, who dwells, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the divine presence in the exalted spheres of the holy and pure, who shine as the resplendence of the firmament, to the soul of Shira bat Avraham Vesara Shirley M. Gold, who has gone to her eternal home. For charity has been donated in remembrance of her soul. May your place of rest be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, may the All-Merciful One shelter her with the cover of God's wings forever, and bind her soul in the bond of life. Adonai is her heritage. May she rest in her resting place in peace, and let us say, Amen. I don't have perfect pitch. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona, Al Kanfei Hashchina, B'malot Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Shira bat Avraham Vesara, Shehalcha le'olama. Ba'avor shenadvu tzadaka ba'ad hazkarat nishmata, B'gan eden dehemenuchata, Lachen bal harachamim yasti reha b'seter kenafav le'olamim. Bitzror hachaim et nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, V'tanuach al mishkava b'shalom, V'nomar Amen. You may be seated once again. Our time here at the chapel is drawing to a close. Immediately following our time here, those of us going to the cemetery will make our way in processional to Crescent Memorial Park in Pennsauken. Please put on your flashers and follow the traffic safety laws in New Jersey. Immediately following interment, guests, family, and friends are welcome to join with the immediate family at Ponzio's for visits and a meal of consolation. And the family asks that donations in lieu of flowers please be made to the American Cancer Society.